Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to learn about the Fair Information Practice Principles, abbreviated as FIPPs. And this is presented to cybersecurity students on this date. And first and foremost, we need to look at our presentation layout. And first we are going to deal with the introduction. Then our next discussion is about understanding of fair information practice principles. And then we are going to look at how the FIPPs compare to other privacy policies, laws, and regulations. Then we are going also to look at how fair information practice principles can be useful in protecting personally identified information and how federal agencies can put each of these principles to use. Then after that, we are also going to look at what is the source of the information. So without much, we are going to move to our first area, where is introduction. And introduction, we are going to look at privacy. Privacy principles and regulations in cybersecurity refers to a set of laws, policies, and guidelines that govern the collection, storage, and use and dissemination of personal information and sensitive data. Then why important? But understanding privacy principles and regulations in cybersecurity is important because it ensures that the protection of personal information and sensitive data adherence to these principles and regulations helps prevent data breaches, maintain consumer trust, and avoid legal consequences. Then additionally, it helps organizations to comply with industry standards and regulations such as the General Data Protection Regulations, abbreviated as GDPR, and the California Consumer Privacy Act, abbreviated as CCPA. By understanding and following privacy principles and regulations, organizations can secure their network and protect the privacy of their customers, clients, and all that. And then we have the source of the information. Secondly, we go to understanding of fair practice principles. Fair information practice principles are a set of internationally accepted standards for protecting the privacy of personal data. The purpose of these, the FIPPs, is to ensure that organizations handling personal data do so with respect to the individual's privacy and that the data is used for legitimate purposes. FIPPs were developed by the US Department of Health and Human Services and have been adopted by the European Union, Australia, and other countries for use. And then a continuation of that, we are looking at what do we understand by transparency within that. And transparency requires organizations handling personal data to disclose information about how they collect, use, and share personal data. This includes providing clear, precise, and easily understandable notices about the data they collect, how it will be used, and who will have access to it. That needs to be understood, clearly understood. Then looking at individual participation, the FIPPs require organizations to give individuals the right to access, correct, or delete their personal data. They must also provide individuals with the ability to opt out of certain data processing activities and all that. Then looking at the purpose specification, organizations must be clear about the purpose for which they collect and process the personal data. They must also ensure that the data collected is adequate, relevant, and not excessive for that purpose. Then when we look at data minimization, organization must collect only the personal data necessary for the purpose of which it is collected. Yeah. Then going to use limitation. What's the use limitation when it comes to FIPPs? Organizations must use personal data only for the purpose for which it was collected. They must not disclose, sell, or otherwise transfer personal data to any third party without the individual's consent. Then data quality and integrity. Organizations must ensure that the data they collect is secure, complete, and up to date. They must also have the procedures in place to detect correct errors in the data. Then we are also looking at security. Organizations must ensure that personal data is protected and all that from unauthorized persons. Then accountability. Organizations must be accountable for their data protection practices and must take responsibility for ensuring that the data is handled in accordance with the FIPPs. Then when we talk of for audit, what do we really mean? And in organization must have an auditing system in place to ensure that the data protection practices are being followed to the letter. Then how do FIPPs compare to other privacy policies, laws, and regulations? And in this, you're going to look at what's the difference. FIPPs are different from other privacy policies, laws, and regulations in that they are not legally binding. However, they provide a set of standards that organizations must adhere to in order to protect the privacy of personal data. Then how FIPPs can be useful to protecting personal identifiable information, and how a federal agency can put each of the principles to use. And in this, we're looking at FIPPs can be useful in protecting personal identifiable information by providing a set of standards for how organizations must handle personal data. Then a federal agency can put each of the principles to use by developing policies and procedures that ensure the data is being handled in accordance with the FIPPs requirements. Then this includes providing clear and easily understandable notices about the data they collect and how it will be used, giving individuals the right to access, correct, or delete their personal data, collecting only the data necessary for the purpose, using the data only for the purpose it was collected, ensuring the data is accurate and up to date, protecting the data with appropriate security measures, being accountable for the data protection practices, and having an auditing system in place. So we have come to the end of this presentation, and in case you have any question in any area of clarification that you need me to emphasize on, please hesitate not, get in touch with me. Otherwise, the following are the references where much of this information was obtained from, in case you need to make some references, further reading, and areas of clarification. Otherwise, thank you very much and have a good evening.